Alright, so today we're diving into something that's got me seriously pumped, the Z Fold 6. I've been using this killer of a device for over a month now, and I gotta tell you, I'm still buzzing. You know, I've always been a sucker for cutting edge tech, especially when something as crazy innovative as a folding phone. I mean, come on, it's like we're stepping into a sci-fi movie where our gadgets just keep getting wilder. Seriously, there's just something about the whole concept of a folding phone that makes me feel like we're living in the future. So let's break down my experience with the Z Fold 6 after 1 month of daily usage.
I've been feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Rjey, and let's start off by talking about my initial excitement. When I got my hands on the Z Fold 6, I was like a kid on Christmas morning. There's just something about the feel of this thing in your hands. Samsung really nailed it with the design this time. It's got this flat, boxy design that just makes the whole thing feel more, I don't know, symmetrical. It's definitely more refined. The Z Fold 5 was great, but the Z Fold 6 takes it up a notch. But let's not forget about the overall look of this thing. There is a certain aesthetic appeal here. You got this sleek, skinnier profile that sort of reminds you of the Galaxy S24 Ultra, but with a folding twist. It's like they've taken a page out of their own book and refined it into something more uniquely Samsung, yet distinctly futuristic. It's almost as if the design itself is whispering to you saying, this is the future. Whether that's true or not still remains to be seen. And let me tell you, the cover display being just 1mm wider, it doesn't sound like much, but it does make a big difference. You might be thinking, RJ, it's just a millimeter. But here's the thing when you're typing. It's like your fingers are suddenly at home. It's like they've given you just a little bit more breathing room. It's not a game changer, but it's a nice touch. And it's those little things that often make the biggest difference when you're using something every single day. Now let's get to the nitty-gritty. Performance. This thing is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset and comes with 12GB of RAM. Let me tell you, this thing is a powerhouse. It's the best chipset available right now, and you can feel it. Everything is snappy, fluid, no lag, nothing. Whether you're multitasking with a split view, playing games, or just flipping through apps, it's seamless. It's like having a mini supercomputer in your pocket. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 isn't just another incremental upgrade. It's a legit performance upgrade. You've got the speed, the efficiency, and the ability to handle whatever you throw at it. Whether it's running heavy-duty apps, streaming content, or even handling some on-the-fly editing, this phone doesn't break a sweat. And that's what you want in a device you're going to rely on day in and day out. It's not about the specs on paper, it's about the real-world usage. And this chipset delivers. But here's the real question. How does a foldable hold up over time? I've been using the Z Fold 6 for about a month now. Not a long time, I know, but everything is still going strong. But you know, with these folding phones, durability is always a concern. You've got this huge inner display, and that's really the main reason to buy this device, right? But at the same time, it's also the biggest question mark. How is this thing gonna look a year from now? Will it still fold like new, or will it start showing signs of wear and tear? Now, we've heard the stories, right? People with previous foldables who've had issues with the crease, or maybe the hinge gets a little wonky after a while. And yeah, those things do concern me. This is a premium device. We're talking over 2,500 Canadian dollars here. So you want it to last, but so far so good. The hinge feels solid and I haven't noticed any issues with the screen, but ask me again in 6 months and we'll see how it's holding up. Now is probably a good time to subscribe. One thing I did notice is that this device is 14 grams lighter than the Z Fold 5. It might not sound like a lot, but when you're holding it, you feel it. It's actually lighter than the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is nuts because this thing is a full-on folding phone. And it's also a touch thinner, going from 6.1mm to 5.6mm. It's subtle, but when you got the phone in your hands, you're like, oh yeah, I see what they did there. It's just one of those small things that improve the overall experience without you even realizing it at first. But here's the thing. This phone is still 12mm thick when folded, despite Samsung making it a bit thinner. It's not paper thin. It's still got some heft to it, so don't expect it to slip into your pockets like a regular phone. But honestly, when you consider what this thing does, it's a small price to pay. You've got to remember, this isn't just a phone. It's an experience, a glimpse of what a smartphone is evolving into. So yeah, it's thicker than a regular slab phone, but that's just because it's packing some serious tech. Now let's talk about this inner display. It's a 7.6-inch 120Hz HDR10 Plus panel with up to 2600 nits of peak brightness. That is bright. I mean, this thing is stunning, especially for its size. You're looking at a 374 pixels per inch on the inner display, which makes everything look pretty sharp. You want to watch movies, play games, this is a screen to do it on. And the outer cover display is even sharper at 410 pixels per inch. However, the inner display's reflections are something that you can't ignore. It's like when you're trying to enjoy a great movie, but there's a glare on the TV. You wish Samsung had thrown in some anti-reflective coating like what we got on the S24 Ultra. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's one of those things that makes you think, man, if only. But let's not let that overshadow the sheer joy of using this display. I mean, 7.6 inches of vibrant, color-rich screen in the palm of your hands. It's wild. Watching content on this thing feels immersive, almost like you're holding a tiny cinema in your hands. Whether you're streaming Netflix or catching up on a YouTube video, the experience is top tier. And the 120Hz refresh rate, smooth as butter. Scrolling through your feed, flipping between apps, all of it is so fluid. Now, battery life. It's got the same 4400 mAh battery as the Z Fold 5, which, don't get me wrong, has been solid. I've been getting through an entire day even with about 45% of my time spent on the inner screen. And I still have enough juice left at the end of the day. So yeah, no complaints in the battery department. But here's the thing. Battery life on a folding phone is always a balancing act. You're powering two displays, one of which is basically a mini tablet. And yet Samsung managed to keep the battery life respectable. I'm not saying it's the best in the business, but it's definitely good enough to get you through a full day. And that's what really matters, right? You don't want to be reaching for your charger halfway through the day because your phone can't keep up. And speaking of charging, 25 watts wired and 15 watts wireless. It's decent, not groundbreaking, but it's functional. You know, we live in a world where everything's getting faster and faster, especially when it comes to charging speeds. Some phones are now pushing 100 watts or more, and here we got 25 watts wired on the Z Fold 6. It's not gonna blow your mind with the speed, but it's reliable. You can plug it in for about 30 minutes and get a decent boost, enough to carry you through the rest of your day. And honestly, with how much this phone does, I'm okay with that trade-off. It's really all about balance. Do you really need ultra-fast charging, or do you want a device with battery longevity? A device where the battery health is gonna hold up in the long term. Wireless charging at 15 watts is also decent. It's not the fastest, but it's convenient, especially when you've got it sitting on your desk or a bedside table. Just drop it on the pad and you're good to go. Alright, let's get into the camera performance, because this is where things get interesting, or maybe a little bit disappointing, depending on how you look at it. The Z Fold 6 has the same camera setup as the Z Fold 5, which, let's be honest here, wasn't exactly groundbreaking. You've got a 50 megapixel main sensor, a 3x telephoto lens at 10 megapixels, and an ultra wide that's got a slight upgrade with a bigger sensor for better low light performance. Now, don't get me wrong, the cameras are good. The main sensor is decent and it will handle most of what you throw at it. But here's the thing, when you're spending this kind of money on a phone, you expect more. The 3x telephoto lens, while serviceable, is starting to feel a bit dated. The images are fine, but they're not going to blow you away, especially when you compare them to what's out there right now on other flagship devices. And then there's the Z Fold Ultra, which is supposedly coming, but only to specific regions. That's a bit of a letdown, because if you're looking for a real upgrade in the camera department, you're going to have to wait for that. And even then, there's no guarantee that it'll be available where you are. It's like Samsung's teasing us with the promise of something better, but keeping it just out of reach. But let's not be too harsh. The ultra-wide camera does make a difference, especially in low-light situations. It's not a game changer, but it is noticeable. You get less noise, more detail, and overall better quality in those tricky lighting situations. It's just that when you're talking about a device like the Z Fold 6, you want it to excel in every area, and the camera setup feels like it's just adequate. Not bad, but not amazing either. Now, there are a few other things that really stand out in daily use. Let's start with the fingerprint scanner integrated into the power button. It's a small feature, but man, does it really make a difference. It's fast, it's reliable, and it's right where your thumb naturally goes when you pick up your phone. I find this to be incredibly convenient, especially when you're dealing with a device this large. You don't want to fiddle around with awkward placements, just a quick touch and you're in. Call reception and call quality are top notch too. You've got excellent noise reduction on calls, even in noisy environments. Your voice does come through crystal clear. It's the kind of thing you might not think about until you're on a really important call, and then you really appreciate it. Samsung's attention to detail here is spot on, and it's one of those features that adds to the overall premium feel of the device. And the speakers. Let's talk about those for a second. Samsung has seriously stepped up their game here. The speakers on the Z Fold 6 are so good that I don't even need to reach for my headphones when I'm watching content. The sound is full, clear, and loud enough to fill a small room. Whether I'm streaming a podcast, watching a movie, or playing some music while I edit videos, these speakers deliver. It's just another area where this phone shines as an entertainment device. One of my favorite features is the ability to open up the fold at a 90-degree angle and use it to watch videos in bed while lying down. It's such a simple thing, but it's so useful. You don't have to prop it up on something or hold it awkwardly. It just sits there ready for you to watch. It's little conveniences like this that makes the Z Fold 6 so versatile and fun to use. But not everything is perfect. The integrated S Pen is still missing, which is a bummer for those of us who like to jot down notes or sketch on the go. I mean, come on Samsung, you've got this huge screen, it's just begging for a built-in S Pen. Sure, you can go buy one separately, but then you've got to carry it around and risk losing it. It's one of those features that seem like a no-brainer, and yet here we are still waiting. There's also a few other features that I find intriguing, like interpreter mode, which is super useful while you're traveling. It's one of those things when you first hear about it, you think, do I really need that? But then you're in a foreign country trying to communicate and suddenly it's a lifesaver. It's these smart, practical additions that make you appreciate how Samsung is thinking about the real-world use of this device. Sketch to image on this thing is scary good. We're talking about AI-driven enhancements that almost feel like magic. But is it a gimmick? Yeah, probably. It's cool and it's going to impress your friends, but is it something that I'm going to be using every single day? I'm not so sure. It is fun to play around with though, and I'm sure that there are some creative types out there who will find a way to make it work in their favor. Voice memo transcription though. Now that's a feature I've been using a lot. It's so useful, especially if you're like me and you constantly need to jot down your thoughts or ideas on the fly. Just speak into your phone and boom, it's transcribed and ready to go. Once again, it's little things like this that make the Z Fold 6 not just a phone, but a powerful tool for getting things done. So will this be in my pocket until the Pixel Fold Pro comes out? Yeah, probably. I'll be comparing both these foldables as soon as I get my hands on them, so make sure you guys have that notification bell turned on. And just remember, there are a ton of great trade-in deals available for this phone. You can pick it up for close to $1,000 or maybe even a bit less, depending on where you look. I've posted some links for you guys in the description below if you are interested. So there you have it, the Z Fold 6 after 1 month of daily usage. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty damn good improvement over the Z Fold 5. Whether you're a tech junkie like me or just someone who loves the idea of having a mini tablet in your pocket, this phone is worth checking out. It's a glimpse into the future wrapped into a sleek, powerful package. From the design to the display to the way that it handles everyday tasks and more. This device is a serious contender. Sure, there are areas that can be improved, like the camera, the lack of an integrated S Pen, and those pesky reflections on the inner display. But when you look at the whole picture, the Z Fold 6 is a triumph of modern engineering. It's pushing the boundaries of what we can expect from our phones and is doing it in style. So whether you're in the market for a new phone or just curious about the latest folding tech, the Z Fold 6 deserves your attention. It's a device that's going to turn heads, spark conversation, and maybe, just maybe, change the way you think about smartphones. My name is Rjey, and that's been my take on the Z Fold 6. If you guys made it to the end of this video, drop a dolphin emoji down in the comments below. I would love to know who my true supporters are. I'll catch you guys all in the next one, and don't forget to flex with your folding tech.